You may have heard the story of Jesus, how he was crucified and buried, but have you ever paused to wonder, why? Why did he have to die, and why did he rise again? It might sound strange, a man crucified and then coming back to life. But it all happened for the most powerful reason, for you, for all of us. On the night before his arrest, Jesus entered a quiet garden called Gethsemane. "Not my will, but yours be done," he whispered to the Father. He knew this was the moment that would change the destiny of mankind. Jesus was arrested, falsely accused, mocked, beaten and sentenced to die. They mocked him with a crown of thorns. They draped a scarlet robe over his shoulders. Then they forced him to carry his own cross through the streets of Jerusalem. Bruised, bleeding, broken, yet still filled with love. At Golgotha, Jesus was nailed to the cross. As the sky darkened and the earth trembled, he gave his final breath. But make no mistake, this was no defeat, this was a holy exchange. 3 days since the earth shook, since the sun darkened, since their world had been shattered at the foot of a Roman cross. And then came Sunday morning. Through the stillness of the morning, 4 women walked with quiet determination. They had seen him suffer. They had seen him die. And though they still loved him with every fibre of their being, their hope felt buried with him. As they neared the garden where the tomb had been sealed, a new worry surfaced. Who will roll away the stone for us? But then they stopped. Something was wrong. No, something was different. The stone was already rolled away. Angels, their garments shimmered like lightning, not of this world, not bound by it.
Why do you seek the living among the dead? He is not here. He has risen.
The message was not of death, but of life. Not of endings, but of a new beginning. And then she saw someone standing nearby, a man.
"Sir, if you have taken him, please tell me where you have laid him, and I will go and get him."
Mary.
Her name, not shouted, not whispered, but spoken, with a love deeper than the ocean and more powerful than the grave. Tears turned to joy, sorrow melted into wonder, grief gave way to glory.
Go, tell the others, I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God.
Mary could barely breathe. Her heart raced with sacred fire. She turned, and then she ran, through the garden, past the tomb, back into the city. And the others, Mary, the mother of James, Joanna and Salome, they ran after her, not in confusion, but in rising faith, with the message burning inside them like morning light breaking through a storm. They didn't need further proof. They had seen the empty tomb, they had heard the angels, and they had seen Mary's face, radiant, alive, transformed.
"I have seen the Lord."
Not just heard of him, not just remembered him, seen him alive, real, glorious, the Messiah, just as he said. And in that single moment, history was rewritten. Death was defeated. Hope had a heartbeat again, and love stood resurrected before the eyes of the world. If this journey through time has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video. Subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Share your thoughts in the comments below and share this video with your friends and family. Your support helps us bring more stories like this to life. Thank you. The sun had set on Jerusalem and the streets were quiet. Shadows clung to stone walls, and behind a bolted wooden door, the disciples huddled in silence, afraid, confused and grieving. The memory of the cross was still fresh, the sting of loss still raw. And though the tomb now stood empty, their hearts were not yet full. They had heard Mary's words, "I have seen the Lord." But could it be true? Could the one who calmed storms, who raised the dead, who called himself the resurrection and the life, truly have returned? They were afraid to hope, afraid to believe, and yet something stirred in the stillness. Then, without warning, he was there, Jesus. Not as a ghost, not as a vision, but real, tangible, glorious, whole. No sound of footsteps, no creak of the door, just presence. A peace so profound it silenced every breath. He stood among them, calm, radiant, alive. His eyes were filled with fire and with love. His hands, still marked with wounds that spoke of sacrifice. His side, pierced but no longer bleeding. He raised his hands and he said, "Peace be with you." And oh, what peace it was. The room, once heavy with fear, became holy with awe. The disciples fell silent, some trembling, some weeping, some still doubting their own eyes. But Jesus, he didn't rebuke them. He drew close. He invited them, "Touch my hands, see my side. It is I." And as their hands reached out in trembling faith, as skin touched scars that had conquered sin, everything they believed was rewritten in that moment. Death was no longer the end. Hope had risen, and love was standing in the room. He broke bread with them, just as he had before. He ate fish beside them, not as a spirit, but in flesh renewed. He walked with them, laughed with them, taught them again, with even deeper meaning than before. For 40 days the risen Saviour remained among them, not hiding, not rushing, but teaching, explaining, helping them understand that all the scriptures, the prophecies, the pain had led to this moment. He reminded them of their calling to love, to forgive, to go, not in fear but in fire. "Go into all the world," he said, "preach the good news to every creature, make disciples, baptize, teach, and never forget, I am with you always." Not just in Jerusalem, not just for a season, but forever. And then, one morning on a quiet hillside outside the city, he gathered them one last time. They stood together on the Mount of Olives, the breeze stirring their robes, the city stretched out below, and the sky above glowing with promise. Jesus turned to them. His eyes were steady, his voice sure. He lifted his hands once more, hands that had healed, served, been pierced, and overcome. He blessed them. And as he spoke his final words, he began to rise, not metaphorically, not symbolically. He rose, lifted from the earth, drawn into the heavens. The disciples watched, speechless, breathless, tears streaming down their faces. He ascended higher and higher, until the clouds embraced him, and he was taken from their sight. Still they stared, still they stood. He was gone, but he was not absent, because his words remained. His spirit was coming, his mission was now theirs, and in that moment, as they stood on that mountaintop, a new world began to turn. Not one ruled by death, but by life everlasting. A world transformed by love, by resurrection, by a king who could never be held by the grave. And now, everything had changed. We're truly grateful you spent time with us today. If this message stirred something in your heart, brought you peace, clarity, encouragement, or simply reminded you of God's unfailing love, we invite you to continue this journey of faith with us. Subscribe to stay connected, share this message with someone who may need it, and drop a comment to let us know how God is speaking to you. Your voice might be the light someone else is waiting to hear. And always remember, God's word never returns void, so keep moving, keep trusting, and keep listening, because his Rhema is always in motion. This is why Easter matters. This is not just a story from long ago. It's not just a chapter in sacred history. Easter is the moment where eternity turned, where everything broken began to be made whole again. The resurrection of Jesus. It wasn't just the end of death, it was the beginning of life. Life. Because he lives, you're no longer defined by your past. Your mistakes do not get the final word. Your guilt is not your identity. Your shame is not your sentence. Because he lives, you are, not in theory but in blood. You are, not conditionally but completely. You are, not with silver or gold, but by the Son of God himself. The cross was the cost. The tomb was the test. But the empty grave, and here's the most beautiful part. He didn't rise for applause. He didn't rise to prove a point. He rose, yes, with all your doubts, with all your questions, with every scar and every secret. He rose for your weary soul. for your restless heart, for your shattered places and forgotten dreams. He rose for every sinner who thought they had gone too far. For every soul who has ever wondered, the answer is, the resurrection is proof. He looked at death and it backed away. He looked at hell and it lost its grip. He looked at you and said, now because he lives, you don't have to walk through life afraid. You don't have to carry the weight alone. You don't have to wonder where you stand with God. Because of Easter, you are invited into grace, into freedom, and even now, Jesus is preparing a place, not just a future location, but a forever home, a kingdom that will never fade, a life that will never die, a peace that will never leave. So no, Easter isn't just about what happened then. It's about what's still happening now. In hearts being healed, in lives being changed, in stories being rewritten by resurrection power. He is risen, just as he said. And that changes everything. As the sun rises on a new day, so does the promise of Easter rise within us. The resurrection isn't just an event to remember, it is a reality to live. Because he lives, we are called to rise beyond our fears, to step out of our shadows, and to walk in the light of his grace. Imagine a world where the chains of guilt and shame fall away, where broken hearts are mended and weary souls find rest. This is the world that Easter invites us into, a world where love triumphs over hate, where peace dispels chaos and where hope outshines despair. You see, the resurrection is not just a past miracle, it is a present power. It is the heartbeat of our faith, the pulse of our purpose, the fire that ignites our spirits. It calls us to live boldly, love deeply, and serve selflessly, knowing that the same power that raised Jesus from the dead is alive in us. So as you go forth from this moment, carry the light of Easter with you. Let it illuminate your path, guide your steps, and fill your heart with unshakable joy. Because he lives, you can face tomorrow. Because he lives, every fear is gone. Because he lives, life is worth the living just because he lives. This is the promise of Easter, a new dawn, a new life, a forever hope. He is risen, and because he lives, so do we. Death. It tried. It wrapped him in darkness. It sealed him in silence. It crowned him with suffering, but it could not hold him. The grave took him in, but could not keep him. The tomb was sealed, but could not shut him in. The stone was heavy, but it was not heavier than his glory. The soldiers were armed, but they were not stronger than his purpose. The sting of death was sharp, but it was no match for the fire in his breath. Hell unleashed its worst, and still he rose. He rose, not with borrowed strength, but with the authority of heaven and earth. He rose, not as a man crawling from defeat, but as the king returning from battle. He rose because no grave could ever cradle the author of life. He rose because death had no claim on the sinless one. He rose because the Lion of Judah does not retreat. He reigns. He rose because eternity bends to his voice, because creation knows his name, because when the Creator lies down in death, death forgets how to breathe. He rose because he is not subject to decay. He is not a victim of mortality. He is not one among many. He is the first and the last, the one who was dead and now lives forevermore. The tomb is empty, not because someone moved his body, but because he moved the world. He shattered the grave. He robbed the abyss. He stared into the eyes of death and said, "This far and no farther." Death could not hold him because he holds the keys of death and hell in his hands. It could not chain him because he forged the very laws of life. It could not silence him because his word is life and light and breath and fire. Death tried to crown him with failure, but heaven crowned him with victory. Death tried to bury him in shame, but God raised him in glory. Death tried to end him, but he is the beginning and the end. He is the resurrected one, the living one, the wounded lamb who now stands forever whole, scarred but undefeated, pierced but all-powerful. No grave could contain the King of Heaven. No tomb could resist the voice that called Lazarus forth. No darkness could silence the light of the world. He is Jesus, the Son of God, the radiance of the Father, the bright morning star, the resurrection and the life, the conqueror of the grave. He is not behind us. He is not below us. He is before us, above us, within us, alive forever, forever reigning, forever worthy. Death did not hold him because his love could not be buried, because his mercy could not be sealed, because his glory could not be hidden. Death could not hold him because the grave was never his destination. It was only a passage, a battlefield, a moment between glory and greater glory. He entered death, not as a prisoner, but as a warrior in disguise. He let death close its arms around him, so he could break it from the inside out. He walked into the silence and made it sing. He entered the dark and lit it with everlasting flame. He let his body rest in the tomb, but his spirit stormed the gates of hell. He disarmed the powers of evil. He stripped shame of its shadow. He crushed condemnation beneath his heel. He took the curse and turned it into a covenant. He took the weapon and turned it into a witness. He took the cross and made it a crown. Death could not hold him because he is life itself. When life enters death, death is overwhelmed, overthrown, obliterated. He is the seed that fell to the ground, but rose to become a tree of life for all. The stone the builders rejected, now the cornerstone of eternity. The hands once nailed are now lifted in victory. The feet once pierced now walk in resurrection power. The voice once silent in the grave now thunders with glory. He is not waiting to be remembered, he is waiting to return. He is not a fallen hero, he is the risen King. He is not buried in memory, he is enthroned in majesty. He is Jesus, the Lamb who was slain, and the Lion who roars forevermore. Death could not hold him because love is stronger than the grave, truth is louder than lies, light is faster than darkness, and Jesus is greater than all. So let every tomb be reminded you are temporary. Let every fear be reminded you have an expiration date. Let every chain tremble, because the resurrected one walks among us. Let every nation, tongue and tribe know he is not dead. He is not missing, he is not defeated, he is risen, he is reigning, he is returning. As we close, may the sacrifice of Jesus Christ remain etched in your heart, not just as a moment in history, but as the reason we live, hope, and rise again each day. His death was not the end, his resurrection is our beginning. Because he lives, you have access to new life, to grace unending, and to a love that never fails. Let this truth anchor your soul. The stone was rolled away, not just from his tomb, but from anything trying to hold you back. So walk boldly in his victory, stand firm in his promises, and let your life echo the power of an empty grave. Until next time, keep your faith alive, your heart open and your spirit in motion, because the Rhema of God is still speaking, still saving, still resurrecting. Happy resurrection season. God bless you. Christ is risen. He is risen indeed.